Captain Maya Patel stood at the bridge of the UES Hyperion, her dark eyes fixed on the massive holographic display, showing the aftermath of what could only be described as a massacre. Debris fields stretched across 3 dimensions, the remnants of what had once been a civilian fleet. The Hyperion's sensors picked up thousands of escape pods, their power signatures growing weaker by the minute. "Report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the grotesque scene before them. Lieutenant Commander Jackson Chen, her tactical officer, spoke without looking up from his console. "Preliminary scans show these attacks are less than 6 hours old, Captain. Energy signatures match nothing in our database. The escape pods contain approximately 12,000 survivors, primarily composed of a species we've never encountered." Maya's jaw tightened. The Hyperion was an exploration vessel, part of humanity's first wave of deep space expeditions beyond known space. First contact protocols were clear: observe, document, and under no circumstances interfere with alien civilizations until proper diplomatic channels were established. But there was nothing in the protocols about watching 12,000 souls fade into the void. "Dr. Evans," Maya called to her xenobiologist, "what can you tell me about the survivors?" Sarah Evans, a tall woman with prematurely gray hair, manipulated her holographic interface with practiced efficiency. "They're oxygen breathers, Captain. Humanoid in basic structure, though their cardiovascular system is fascinating. They could survive in our atmosphere with minimal discomfort." "And their attackers?" "The weapon signatures suggest a level of technology far beyond anything we've encountered. These aren't raiders or pirates. This was systematic extermination." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had spent the last century preparing for first contact, developing protocols, training diplomats, and building ships like the Hyperion to serve as ambassadors to the stars. None of those preparations had covered this scenario. "Captain," Chen's voice cut through the silence, "we're picking up another signal. It's different. Whatever hit this fleet is coming back." Maya's mind raced through her options. The Hyperion was primarily a research vessel, though like all human ships, it carried significant defensive capabilities. The politicians back home had insisted on it, despite protests from the scientific community. Right now, Maya was grateful for that paranoia. "How many escape pods can our cargo bays hold?" she asked her operations officer. "Maybe a quarter of them, Captain. But first contact protocols. To hell with protocols." Maya's voice carried the weight of command. Humanity didn't come to the stars to watch massacres. Begin rescue operations immediately. "Mr. Chen, ready our defensive systems. Dr. Evans, prepare medical facilities for survivors. And someone wake up our linguistics team." The bridge erupted into activity. As crew members rushed to their stations, Maya caught her reflection in a darkened display panel. The face that looked back at her wasn't just a starship captain anymore. It was humanity's first true representative to an alien civilization. Whatever came next would set the tone for all future interactions. The first escape pod was being tractored into their cargo bay when Chen's console lit up with warnings. "Multiple contacts, Captain. They're using some kind of spatial distortion for propulsion. Nothing like our engines." "Show me." The holographic display shifted, revealing 3 ships that seemed to bend reality around them. They were massive, easily dwarfing the Hyperion, with hulls that appeared to absorb light rather than reflect it. As Maya watched, they began launching smaller craft toward the remaining escape pods. "They're going to finish what they started," Maya said quietly. Then, louder, "Battle stations. Deploy our point defense grid. No one else dies today." The Hyperion's defense systems came online. A sophisticated network of lasers, railguns, and electromagnetic countermeasures. Human engineers had always preferred redundancy and overlapping systems to single, powerful weapons. It made their ships look messy compared to the sleek alien vessels, but it also made them surprisingly difficult to disable. "First contact protocols do have one thing right," Maya announced to her crew as the alien ships drew closer. We are here to represent humanity. So let's show them exactly what that means. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We stand against bullies and tyrants. And we absolutely do not stand by while innocents are slaughtered. The first alien fighter reached weapons range, and Maya gave the order that would change the course of human history. All batteries, open fire. Welcome to first contact. The Hyperion shuddered as another volley of alien weapons fire splashed against its shields. Maya watched the tactical display with growing concern. Their point defense network was holding, but the enemy's technological advantage was becoming clear with each passing moment. Shields at 63%, Chen reported, his fingers dancing across his console. Their weapons are strange, Captain. They're not just energy-based. There's some kind of temporal distortion effect. Dr. Evans spoke up from her station. They're trying to age our shield matrix. Brilliant, actually. But they didn't account for human engineering philosophy. Maya allowed herself a small smile. Humanity's approach to technology had always been different from what they'd theorized about potential alien civilizations. Where others might seek elegance and efficiency, humans layered redundancy upon redundancy. The Hyperion shields weren't a single sophisticated system, but rather multiple overlapping fields of varying types. When one layer aged rapidly, another simply took its place. Status of the rescue operation? Maya asked, keeping her eyes on the battle display. We've secured 812 survivors so far, her operations officer reported. Medical teams are overwhelmed, but Dr. Evans' preliminary analysis was correct. They can breathe our air. They're calling themselves the Nyera. Another impact rocked the ship. 58%, Chen updated. Maya studied the tactical situation. The three massive alien ships, the attackers, not the Nyera, maintained their distance while launching waves of smaller craft. Traditional doctrine would suggest focusing fire on the capital ships, but something about their behavior nagged at her. Mr. Chen, analyze the fighter attack patterns. Are they trying to destroy us or keep us occupied? Chen's eyes widened as he ran the analysis. The latter, Captain. They're hurting us, pushing us away from the remaining escape pods while maintaining maximum dispersion of our point defense grid. Just as I thought. They're not used to dealing with ships that can multitask. Maya straightened in her command chair. New strategy. Divert auxiliary power to the forward shields. Helm. Plot a course directly through that fighter screen. Maximum acceleration. Let's introduce them to another human concept, the breakthrough. The bridge crew worked quickly to implement her orders. The Hyperion's engines roared to life, pushing the ship forward with acceleration that would have crushed its crew if not for the inertial dampeners. The alien fighters scattered, clearly not expecting such an aggressive move from a ship that had been playing defense. Contact in 5 seconds, the helm officer announced. 4, 3, 2. All batteries, fire as they bear, Maya commanded. Maximum dispersion. The Hyperion's weapons blazed, not focusing on any single target, but creating a wall of fire that forced the alien fighters to either evade or be destroyed. Those that chose to stand their ground disappeared in brilliant explosions. Those that evaded found themselves out of position, unable to maintain their coordinated attack pattern. Through the chaos, the Hyperion plunged deeper into the debris field, closer to the remaining escape pods. More survivors were tractored aboard even as the ship's weapons continued their defensive fire. Captain, Dr. Evans called out. One of the Nyera survivors is insisting on speaking with you. Says it's urgent. Maya nodded. Pike them through to my station. The holographic display shifted, showing a tall, elegant being with iridescent skin and multiple pairs of eyes arranged in a vertical line. Despite their alien appearance, the expression of worry was unmistakable. I am first speaker Talaris, the alien said, their words automatically translated by the ship's eye. You must understand, the Vreks do not stop. They do not negotiate. They consider themselves the gardeners of the galaxy, pruning away species they deem inefficient. Inefficient? Maya asked, even as she directed the continuing battle. Our civilization values art, philosophy, cultural exchange. The Vrex believe such pursuits weaken the galaxy as a whole. They destroy any species that prioritizes culture over constant military advancement. Talaris's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. We never stood a chance against them. But your ship fights unlike anything we've seen. Human engineering, Maya explained. We believe in backup systems for our backup systems. Some call it inelegant. We call it thorough. Another impact rocked the ship. Shields at 41%, Chen reported. But the breakthrough worked. We've nearly doubled our rescue capacity. Talaris studied Maya with their alien eyes. You risk your ship, your crew, to save those you've never met. Why? Maya's response was interrupted by a priority alert from Tactical. The 3 Vrex capital ships were finally moving, their reality-bending drives pushing them toward the Hyperion's position. Because it's right, Maya answered simply. And because humanity learned long ago that true strength isn't about destroying what you consider weak. It's about protecting those who need protection. She turned to her crew. All hands, prepare for Phase 2. Let's show these gardeners why you should never back a human into a corner. As klaxons blared throughout the ship, Talaris watched in fascination as the humans prepared their next move. Perhaps, they thought, the galaxy's garden was about to become much more interesting. The massive Vrex capital ships loomed in the Hyperion's visual display, their dark hulls seeming to bend space itself. Maya watched as her crew worked with practiced efficiency, even as the ship's AI calculated their chances of survival at less than 20%. Dr. Evans, Maya called out, what have you learned about their temporal weapons? The xenobiologist pulled up several analysis screens. They're using localized time dilation fields to age materials rapidly. Fascinating technology, but it requires enormous energy expenditure. That's why they rely on fighter screens for prolonged engagement. The capital ships need time to recharge between temporal strikes. And how do they generate these fields? Some kind of quantum manipulation. The readings are like nothing we've... Wait. Evans's eyes widened. Captain, are you thinking what I think you're thinking? Maya's grim smile was all the answer needed. Mr. Chen, prepare to execute Protocol Omega. Dr. Evans, I need you to help engineering modify our shield harmonics. And someone get our guest up here. We're going to need Talaris's insight. The first speaker arrived on the bridge moments later, their iridescent skin reflecting the red battle lighting. The Vrex capital ships are moving to firing positions, they observed. No one has ever survived a direct temporal strike from all 3 simultaneously. Then it's time to change the rules, Maya replied. Tell me, in all your encounters with the Vrex, has anyone ever tried to reflect their temporal fields back at them? Talaris's vertical row of eyes blinked in sequence. Reflect. That would be impossible. The energy requirements alone. Impossible is a human specialty. Chen interrupted, his fingers flying over his console. Captain, Protocol Omega is ready. Engineering reports shield modifications are at 70%. Maya nodded. Good. Now, Talaris, I need to know exactly where their temporal projectors are located on those ships. Our sensors can't get a clear read through their hull distortion. The first speaker hesitated only a moment before moving to a tactical station. Their long fingers traced patterns on the display, marking key points on the Vrex vessels. Here and here. But Captain Patel, even if you could reflect their temporal fields, the feedback would tear your ship apart. Under normal circumstances, yes, Dr. Evans interjected. But we're not going to reflect all of it. We're going to create a temporal lens. Understanding dawned in Talaris's alien features. You're going to focus their temporal fields back on specific points of their ships. Their own weapons will age their temporal projectors by about 300 years, Maya finished. Assuming our calculations are correct, and assuming we survive the attempt. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. It was the kind of plan that defined human thinking. taking an enemy's strength and turning it against them, even at great risk to themselves. Vrex ships entering final firing position, Chen reported. Time to temporal strike. 40 seconds. Maya opened a shipwide channel. All hands. This is the captain. What we're about to attempt has never been done before. The Vrex think they can prune away civilizations they deem inefficient, weakened by art and culture, and the very things that make life worth living. Today, we show them that true strength comes from diversity, from creativity, from the willingness to attempt the impossible, secure for extreme maneuvers. Paddle out. 20 seconds. Chen counted down. Dr. Evans's hands flew across her console. Shield modifications complete. Harmonics locked. 10 seconds. Teleris gripped their station as the Vrex ships began to glow with terrible energy. Captain, thank you. Whatever happens, know that you've shown us something remarkable today. 5 seconds. Maya's voice was steel. All power to forward shields. Brace for impact. Let's make history. The space between the ships lit up like a newborn sun as 3 temporal strikes lanced out simultaneously. The Hyperion shields blazed with impossible colors as they caught the strikes, bent them, focused them. Warning klaxons screamed as systems redlined across the ship. Shields critical. Chen shouted over the noise. Field coherence failing. Hold together, Maya whispered, both to her ship and her crew. Just a few more seconds. The shields turned from blue to white to colors human eyes had never seen. And then, like light through a prism, the temporal energy refracted, split, and struck back at the Vrex ships with surgical precision. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the massive capital ships began to drift, their reality-bending drives flickering and dying as their temporal projectors crumbled to dust, aged centuries in seconds. Direct hits, Chen reported, his voice filled with disbelief. All 3 Vrex ships are. They're powerless, Captain. It worked. The bridge erupted in cheers, but Maya wasn't finished. She opened a channel to the drifting Vrex vessels. This is Captain Maya Patel of the UES Hyperion. Your ships are disabled, your fighters are scattered, and you've just learned that humanity doesn't accept your definition of strength. You have 2 choices: surrender and face justice for your crimes against the Nyara, or force us to demonstrate more human creativity. Choose quickly. As they waited for a response, Teleris turned all eyes to Maya. Your ship is badly damaged. You had no guarantee this would work. How could you take such a risk? Maya's response was interrupted by Chen. It's called being human, Dr. Evans said with a small smile. We're full of contradictions. Speaking of contradictions, Chen interjected, what do we do with our Vrex prisoners? We can't exactly bring them to Earth, but we can't leave them stranded either. Maya had been considering this problem. First speaker, would your people be willing to accept them as refugees? Not as prisoners, but as people who need to learn a different way of thinking. Talaris's skin flickered with surprise. You would trust them among our civilians, after what they did. Trust has to start somewhere, Maya replied. And I believe they've learned that their way isn't the only way, or even the best way. Sometimes the most efficient path isn't the right one. Sometimes strength comes from art, from philosophy, from the very things they dismissed as weakness. The first speaker was quiet for a long moment, their vertical row of eyes blinking in thoughtful sequence. Finally, they spoke. There is an ancient tradition among my people. When someone commits a great wrong, they may seek redemption through service to those they harmed. It is fitting. Then it's settled, Maya declared. We'll transport everyone to your colony world. The Vrex can begin their redemption, and our peoples can begin a proper cultural exchange. She smiled slightly. Though I suspect the diplomats back home are going to have some choice words about our methods. Let them talk, Dr. Evans said. We did what was right. That's the human way. As if to punctuate her words, a notification chimed on the main display. Another group of survivors had been located, their escape pod's power nearly depleted. Without hesitation, Maya began issuing orders to rescue them, watching as her crew, human and Nyara working side by side, moved with seamless efficiency. Looking out at the stars, she reflected that this was perhaps humanity's true strength, not the ability to wage war or create impossible technologies, but the capacity to bring people together, to forge connections where none existed before, and to see hope where others saw only endings. The galaxy was about to change, and humanity, it seemed, would be leading the way. 3 days later, the Hyperion emerged from FTL near the Nyara colony world of Luminara. The planet lived up to its name, its twin moons reflecting light across vast crystal formations that dotted the surface. In the ship's observation lounge, Maya stood with First Speaker Talaris, watching as shuttles began ferrying survivors down to their new home. "Your world is beautiful," Maya said, noting how the crystalline structures seemed to pulse with their own inner light. "The crystals are actually living organisms," Talaris explained, their skin shimming with pride. "They form a symbiotic relationship with our cities, providing power and helping maintain atmospheric balance. The Vrex saw this as inefficient. They believed we should simply mine them for energy instead. Sometimes the most efficient solution isn't the best one," Maya replied, thinking of the past few days. The Hyperion's crew had worked tirelessly, not just keeping their refugees alive but learning from them, sharing stories and knowledge. Even the Vrex prisoners had begun to change, their rigid worldview cracking as they witnessed the strength and diversity firsthand. A soft chime announced Chen's arrival. "Captain, we've received a response from Earth Command." Maya had been dreading this moment. "Let's hear it." The holographic display activated, showing Admiral Harrison's weathered face. His expression was unreadable as he began. "Captain Patel, I've reviewed your report on the first contact incident with both the Nyara and Vrex species. Your actions violated no fewer than 15 protocols and went against decades of established first contact doctrine." Maya straightened, ready to defend her decisions, but the Admiral continued. "You also demonstrated exactly the kind of judgment and initiative we hope to see in our deep space commanders. Well done, sir." Maya couldn't hide her surprise. "The protocols exist for a reason, Captain, but they're guidelines, not chains. Humanity didn't come this far by blindly following rules when circumstances demanded otherwise. Your actions showed the galaxy exactly who we are: innovative, compassionate, and unwilling to stand by while injustice occurs." Talaris stepped forward, their multiple eyes focused on the Admiral. "Your captain's actions saved thousands of my people, Admiral. More than that, she showed us that we're not alone in believing that true civilization requires both technological advancement and cultural development." "Indeed," Harrison nodded, "which is why the Council has approved your request, Captain. The Hyperion is hereby reassigned as our permanent diplomatic and cultural exchange vessel with the Nyara. Your first mission will be to help establish a joint human-Nyara research facility on Luminara." Maya felt a weight lift from her shoulders. "And the Vrex prisoners. Your recommendation for rehabilitation rather than punishment has been accepted, both by our Council and the Nyara leadership. It's an unprecedented opportunity to transform a potential enemy into an ally." After the transmission ended, Maya turned to find Chen grinning. "A research facility, Captain. Sounds like we'll be bending a few more laws of physics soon." "More than that," Talaris interjected, their skin pulsing with excited colors. "My people have already begun incorporating human engineering principles into our designs. The concept of layered redundancy alone has revolutionized our thinking, and several of the Vrex engineers have shown particular interest in combining their temporal technology with your innovative approaches." Maya walked to the observation window, watching as more shuttles descended to the crystal-studded surface below. In just a few days, 3 species that might have become bitter enemies had instead begun forging something new, all because one ship's crew had chosen to act according to their principles rather than their protocols. "You know what the truly remarkable thing is," she said finally. "None of this was about superior technology or military might. It was about being willing to try the impossible, to show compassion even to enemies, to value both scientific advancement and cultural wisdom." She turned to face her companions. "That's humanity's real gift to the galaxy. Not our weapons or our ships, but our ability to imagine better ways forward. And our stubborn insistence on making those better ways reality," Chen added with a smile. Talarissa's eyes blinked in sequence. Perhaps that is why the galaxy needed humanity, not as conquerors or saviors, but as catalysts for change. You make the impossible seem merely improbable, and then you do it anyway. As if to emphasize their words, a new set of crystals began growing where the first shuttle had landed, their structure subtly different from the others, a hybrid form incorporating elements of human architecture with Nyara crystal tech. It was beautiful, impossible, and absolutely perfect. "Well," Maya said, watching the new growth with satisfaction, "we should probably get started. There's a whole galaxy out there, full of impossible things just waiting to be attempted." The story of humanity's first real step into the galactic community wouldn't be about conquest or domination. Instead, it would be about innovation, compassion, and the courage to do what was right rather than what was expected. As the Hyperion's crew prepared for their new mission, they knew they were part of something greater, the beginning of a future where strength came not from destruction, but from the boundless power of cooperation and creative thinking. After all, that was the human way.